doing? This is Cal, editor-in-chief at DoAndroisdDance.com. We're sitting here today with Porter Robinson, whose album's out now. How did you get involved in, that type of like niche, technical scene? Where did that love come from?
I think I got into a space where my first priority was to try to impress producers and try to make music for musicians, to make stuff that was really technical on the production level, so that other producers would hear it and think it was amazing and impossible and be impressed. And that's where this idea of putting huge amounts of effort into a song as a requirement came from. My approach is definitely a lot more about ideas first. I would say this album is a lot more kind of impressionistic, and I was really content to sometimes just take a sound and distort it and clip it and just leave it a little bit more raw. And I was focusing a lot more on musical ideas and on the feeling and not allowing myself to get caught up on the very technical stuff that only producers notice. I don't think that those things are mutually exclusive, but my process in this album involved getting really excited about something and an idea or a feeling and just trying to see it through and not lose enthusiasm. And I think it's a much more gratifying way to write music, to focus on ideas.
There's a lot of parts of the world that I know were deeply personal to you. Was that always your goal in making this album? Was it always going to be a big, deep, personal thing?
The first song to me that was really deeply personal and made me feel something real, I think the most significant one, I think, was Language. And that came out and it did really well, and that was a moment to me that was vindicating, where I was like, I can make music that I like, even if it's risky, because at the time, Language did feel risky to me because I had only been making like electro bassy stuff to that point. Maybe I should just write an album that is 100% exactly to my taste, with no compromises, even things I didn't even think I was compromising on before. So I had to totally rework my mentality from the bottom up as far as like who I was as a musician and what my goals were and what I wanted to be doing. And that way, I think Worlds is deeply, deeply personal to me because it took a lot of introspection and a lot of me really facing myself and figuring out what I love in music and then trying to do that.
Did you ever fear losing the fan base that came in on tracks like Language and Easy? Was it ever something that you were, I don't know if I should do this, what the risks I'm going to be taking?
I was not terrified of the idea of not, making all the money in the world and losing like the lifestyle perks. And I think if I was a little bit more attached to that, I would have been more scared. But the other thing is I have no desire to alienate fans of my old material, and I don't want to disappoint people. But I think if you operate with that as your first consideration, if that's not an afterthought, I really think you can lose your identity as an artist. Do you think it's going to be hard for people to kind of get where you're coming from, how you've grown, or will they understand you more going through the album? In my own writings, I've talked a little bit about how nostalgia can be kind of a blessing and a curse. So there's some songs that you have the most nostalgia for, and you send them to your friends and they don't feel it whatsoever. And so I very specifically considered whether it might be dangerous for me to get too personal and to really channel nostalgia that other people might not share. I made efforts in the songwriting to make it so that a lot of the nostalgia, even though it was somewhat in the chord progressions, it was mostly in the sounds. In Sad Machine, the second half is very much like a lot of Zelda Ocarina of Time type sounds, and people who haven't played that game, I think they just still like the song because of the songwriting and the vocal and the hook and the lead melody, and they hear that and they go, oh, that sounds kind of dinky and retro in a way that is weird to me, but I still like the chords that are playing and I still feel the atmosphere overall.
Awesome, awesome. Well, it's Porter Robinson, this is Cal, DoAndroisdDance. Worlds is out now. Cop it.